Life narratives integrate different dimensions of life experiences to create a narrative fabric that venture us into a journey to our past, present, and evolving future. It is not the grand narratives, but the simple stories of the ordinary and the mundane, stories from the margins, stories emerging from silence, stories of the innate and the minute, give flesh and blood to the life narratives. It is the stories that had been told made the world. If we wish to change the world, we have to change our stories. We have to undo, revisit, and retell some of our stories. In her awe-inspiring address under the title Dangers of a Single Story, Chimamanda Adichie says, I quote, stories matters, many stories matters, that when we reject the single story, when we realize that there is never a single story, we regain a kind of paradise. With that note, and with immense pleasure, I invite the academic fraternity present in the platform to the inaugural session of the virtual National Conference on the Story, Life Narratives of Experience, Memory, Identity and Agency, organized by the Department of English, Kristu Jayanti College, Autonomous, Bangalore. Let's begin the conference with an invocation to the divine in us. I request the college choir to lead us with the invocation.
Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from thy presence, O Lord, and take not thy Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and renew a right spirit within me. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. And renew a right spirit within me. And renew a right spirit within me.
Thank you, choir, for that blessed hymn. Now to welcome the dignitaries and the participants to this two-day virtual national conference, I invite Professor Jarin Jose, Coordinator, Department of English.
Good morning, everyone. Life narrative can simply be defined as a writing of one's own life. It has been the vogue of literary studies for recent decades and still enjoys popularity among readers all over the world. If you think about how it all began, we need to return to the culture of storytelling, which was engraved in almost all cultures. Today, we have gathered here to think, learn, and imbibe the tinges of life narratives. Our lives are entangled in the web of stories. We encounter people, situations, and even challenges in our lives, which get portrayed in the stories we do tell and share. Personal memories and experiences from the primary archival resources for life narratives. The virtual national conference on the story, life narratives of memory, experience, identity, and agency aims to delve in the hues and nuances of life narratives by taking us through its various aspects. It's indeed an honor to propose the welcome address on this occasion. We are very pleased to welcome each one of you to the conference organized by the Department of English. I would like to welcome our chief guest and keynote speaker, Nandini Sahu, an academician and one among the incredible contemporary Indian English poets, expounding her potential voice as an ambassador of femininity. We are grateful and privileged that you accepted our invitation as the chief guest of the day. On behalf of the entire Christu Jayanti family, I extend a warm welcome to you, ma'am. We have with us a great leader who leads us with example. I welcome our principal, Reverend Dr. Augustine George, an eminent scholar, a great visionary, and an able administrator. Hearty welcome, Father. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Reverend Father Lijo P. Thomas, financial administrator, and all the other fathers in the management team to this event. Hearty welcome, fathers. I extend a warm welcome to Father Joshi Matthew, faculty, Department of English, for his support and encouragement in our every endeavor. I would like to welcome our respected Dean, Faculty of Humanities, Dr. Gopakumar Ravi, for all his support and help in conducting this conference. We are honored to have the members of Advisory Committee, resource persons, delegates, and participants from various institutions from different parts of the country whose enthusiastic responses has inspired us throughout. We welcome you all. I welcome all the deans, heads of the departments, coordinators, and faculty members from various departments who are here to support us. Hearty welcome, dear teachers. Last but not the least, I welcome all our students to this session. Hearty welcome, dear Jayantians. Once again, welcoming you all to this conference and wishing each and everyone a wonderful day ahead. I remain.
Thank you very much, Charan sir. We welcome you as well. Now to present the prelude of the conference, I invite Dr. Lilikuti Abraham, the convener of the conference and an ever-smiling, all-enthusiastic and vibrant personality of our department. Over
Thank
to
you,
you,
Timin
Lilikuti,
sir.
ma'am.
Thank you. Honorable guest of the day, Professor Nandini Sahu, Reverend Dr. Augustine George, Principal Christu Jayanti College, respected members of management, deans, heads and coordinators of various departments, my dear colleagues, delegates from various higher educational institutions, and my dear students. Life and story are interrelated. Stories bridge the past with the present through our memory. In Girish Karnad's celebrated work, Nagamandala, the character story reiterates when she talks to the man. I quote, "You can't just listen to the story and leave it at that. You must tell it again to someone else." Unquote. Yes, the National Conference on the Story, Life Narratives of Experience, Memory, Identity, and Agency, organized by the Department of English, Christu Jayanti College, intends the story to be told as an ongoing method of narrating one's experiences of pleasure and pain. A group of academicians from different geographical areas of our country and abroad meet together on this virtual platform to narrate our stories once again and to pass on the process as a dynamic endeavor in all our deliberations. The objective of the conference is to explore the plethora of life narratives with its focus on experiences, memory, identity, and agency. and to identify the relevance of the field and its future scope for research. The 2 days of the conference has a wide spectrum of topics pertaining to the field of life narratives. Experts from the field will be deliberating on different subgenres of life narratives, beginning with the inaugural keynote address by Professor Nandini Sahu, a renowned poet and creative writer of international repute. We continue our journey through plenary sessions by eminent academicians, Dr. T. Marks, Professor, Department of English, School of Humanities, Pondicherry University, Puducherry, Dr. N.P. Ashley, Assistant Professor, Department of English, St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and Dr. Srinath Muralidharan K., Assistant Professor, Senior Grade and Research Guide, Department of English and Languages, School of Arts and Science, Amrita Vishnu Vidyapeetham, Kochi, Kerala. Panel discussion scheduled for today is a dialogue on the discourse of life narratives by experts Dr. Rani PL, Associate Professor and Head, Department of English, Language and Literature, Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur Campus, Andhra Pradesh, Dr. Preeti Kumar, Assistant Professor, St. Teresa's College, Autonomous, Ernakulam, Kerala, and Dr. Prayer Elmoraj, Assistant Professor, PG and Research Department of English, Pachayappa College, Chennai, Tamil Nadu. And the moderator of the panel discussion will be Dr. V.P. Krishna Prabha, Head, PG Department of English, Kristu Jayanti College. We received an overwhelming response from scholars to present their research papers during the conference. 109 research papers will be presented today and tomorrow. We expect that the conference will contribute to the existing repository of knowledge on life narratives and will open further scope of exploration. I wish you all a pleasant experience of exchange of creative ideas these 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lily Kuti ma'am, for that comprehensive prelude to the conference. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a true leader. The adage is 100% factual when it comes to the leader of Kristu Jayanti, our own principal, Reverend Dr. Augustine George. A charismatic leader, tirelessly working to fulfill the vision of the college, light and prosperity, which envisages to ignite the minds of the youth to realize their potential and to make positive contributions, leading to the prosperity of the society and the world and the nation at large. I invite Reverend Augustine to deliver the presidential address. Over to you, Father.
Most distinguished and respected resource person, Professor Nandini Sahu, Father Lijo P. Thomas, Financial Administrator, Father Joshi, Faculty and Management Person, Dr. Gopakumar, Dean, Faculty of Humanities, Professor Jerin, Coordinator, Department of English, distinguished faculty members, delegates, and students. I'm profusely elated to be the part of this national conference organized by the English department. This is unique and relevant in content and context. I join with the entire Kristu Jayanti family to thank Professor Nandini Sahu, a poet, a creative writer of international repute, for gracing this occasion. Your presence adds much value to this conference. This conference is furthermore distinct and magnificent with the presence of other luminaries from different universities from India and abroad. Let me join with the entire Kristu Jayanti family to wish all the best to the conference. Kristu Jayanti College has a story of 21 years, a story in which a small college started with 9 students and has made exponential growth in terms of quantity and quality as of now with the 8,000 plus students, and have the laurels and awards of national and international agencies. The vision of the college is to build a renewed humanity through the integral development of the mind, body, and spirit. The motto of the college, the Light and Prosperity, aims at this synthesis, the harmony of the spiritual and the physical, the mind and the body. A story is telling of an event, either true or fictional, in such a way that the listener experiences or learns something just by the fact that he heard the story. A story is a means of transferring information, experience, attitude, or a point of view. Every story has a teller and a listener. By story, we don't mean something made up to make a bad situation look good. Rather, we are talking about accounts that are deeply true and so engaging that listeners feel they have a stake in our success. The stories offer insight, understanding, and new perspectives. They educate us and they feed our imaginations. They help us see other ways of doing things and might free us from self-reproach or the shame. That's why the hearing and the telling stories is comforting and bonds people together. We tell stories every day, mostly to ourselves. We tell ourselves stories to make a point, to imagine a possible future, to remind ourselves, to reprimand ourselves, to comfort ourselves. So inside each and every one of us, there is a complex system of storytelling, and that is active, rich in content, and I believe that very necessary to the health and well-being of each one of us. And this is where the story starts, where they are conceived, gestate, and are eventually born. So consequently, the story is, the first teller is ourselves. The first listener is also we, the people are. Maybe the creative urge that I feel is meant primarily to feed ourselves, nourish ourselves. I can say that take care of us, comfort and protect ourselves. Often we think we tell stories to others to inform or to entertain, but fundamentally, we are talking to the stories to the ourselves. The essentials of life can be food, water, air, sleep that passes through us. Nothing remains. And we take them in, absorb their essence, and then let go out. Maybe it is the same way with the story as well. So we need to create the story for ourselves, and we need to allow them to grow inside within us. And we need to feed them knowing they will feed us the later stage. So a platform is created for all of us to share the stories, to understand in depth the meaning of that. The Department of English in Kristu Jayanti College offers the master's program and undergraduate program. And they are into many programs. for the benefit of the students and give them a rich experience in their learning experience. I really appreciate the Graduate Department of English for organizing this national conference with a very inspiring theme they have taken. I wish each and everyone present here a scintillating time of sharing and learning, growing and evolving, and creating in each one of us a powerful strength of empathetic understanding and irrefutable greatness of humanity. I feel in my duty if I don't mention the effort taken by the department, the conference conveners, for meticulously organizing the program, bringing the people of national and international repute as a resource people. Thanks to the participants for your passion to learn and grow. I'm sure this conference will give you some enriching time. Wishing all of you all the best. And once again, thanking our chief guest and the keynote speaker, Professor Nandini Sahu, for gracing this occasion. Going through the resume, I'm so happy that she achieved a lot within a short span of time. We appreciate your achievements, and we are really happy that you are the part of this conference as well. Wishing all of you all the best. I remain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Father, for your supporting words and all the support that you're extending to the department. Dr. Nandini Sahu, an exemplary contemporary Indian poet, creative writer, and academician, is here with us as our chief guest. Ms. Alna Marie Isaac, Assistant Professor, Department of English, will introduce Dr. Nandini to us. Over to you, Alna ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Pleasant morning to one and all. I deem it a great privilege to introduce the chief guest for the day. Professor Nandini Sahu is a major voice in contemporary Indian English literature. Accomplished her doctorate in English literature under the guidance of late Professor Niranjan Mohanty, Professor of English, Vishwabharati Shantiniketan. She has been widely published in India, USA, UK, Africa, and Pakistan. Apart from numerous other literary awards, she is a triple gold medalist in English literature. Ma'am received the gold medal from the Honorable Vice President of India for her contributions to English studies in the year 2019. Professor Nandini Sahu is the author and editor of 14 books. Some of the works are The Other Voice, The Silence, a Poetry Collection, The Post-Colonial Space, Writing the Self and the Nation, and many more. Presently, Professor Nandini Sahu is the Director, School of Foreign Languages and Professor of English at Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. Her areas of research interests cover Indian literature, new literatures, folklore, and cultural studies. American literature, children's literature, and critical theory are many more to add to it. Ma'am is the chief editor as well as the founder editor of the Interdisciplinary Journal of Literature and Language, IJLL, a biannual peer-reviewed journal in English. It is my honor to welcome Professor Nandini Sahu to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much for introducing me with this beautiful plural words. So kind of you. And I thank the college for having invited me to deliver the keynote address, but I'm afraid I have hardly 30 minutes with me because I have a meeting to join. But still, I'll try to do justice to the subject in 30 minutes time. The principal of the college, sir, thank you so very much for inviting me, and all the respected fathers in the college, deans and heads of the department, Dr. Masilamani, the one who has been coordinating, who has been in touch with me all these days, for inviting me, and Dr. Jerin Jose, Dr. Lily, and faculty and students of the college, the researchers and all the participants out there. A very good morning, and thank you very much once again for inviting me. Now the subject which you sent me is really very interesting, and it is actually the need of the hour to introduce our students to this kind of a subject. How in any kind of story, be it a novel, a short story, even a poem, sometimes even most of the times even a poem is a story in the form of a verse. So in any creative writing, how the life narrative, the experience, and the agency is the creative writing. Agency is, these things are actually interrelated. The experiences of the writer, the memory of the writer, the memoir of the writer, and the identity of the person who is writing. Everything will come together through the agency of creative writing. So I found this to be a very relevant topic. In fact, I would recommend that after this conference, after these 2 days important deliberations, you should collect all the papers from the researchers, the participants, and the students, and if possible from the other speakers also, and put everything together in the form of a book or a journal and keep it preserved for progeny to read it. Having said that, I would come back to my own creative writing and my own identity. I have multiple identities. I have been teaching since last 2 decades in different capacities as a professor of English and currently as the director of the School of Foreign Languages, Indira Gandhi National Open University. We are world's largest university. IGNOU is world's largest university in terms of students intake and also in terms of the academic programs we design and develop. And we are a dual mode university. Most of our programs are offered through the distance mode, and our classes are conducted through the Gyan Darshan and Gyan Bani mediums, through the TV channels and the radio channels, and also our online programs are launched through the Swayam and the Swayam Prabha channels, and our MPhil and PhD programs, which are full-time and face-to-face. We have real-time, everyday classes on the campus for the MPhil students and the PhD students, and also some of the online programs that we take through our studio. We have students on the campus. So actually, we are missing out on nothing. We are designing and developing academic programs, printing the material. We have world's largest godown of books being printed, and we are not missing out on the face-to-face classes since we have MPhil, PhD classes, and online classes every single day. So having said that, again, I'll come back where I stand in my multiple identities. I'm a folklorist. I have designed and developed multiple programs for Indira Gandhi National Open University, where I have been teaching since 2006. And folklore and culture studies, they had been treated, and also children's literature. These kind of subjects had been treated as a part of our marginal studies. People would romanticize folklore, put folklore out there in a museum, watch folklore from a distance, and there had been a lot of misunderstanding, misinterpretation, dance, music, and all. But somehow, the flexible folklorists like us, the contemporary folklorists, we have taken folklore to the table. We have put it on the university tables. We have designed and developed academic programs on folk and culture studies. Last week's the Indian Express has one news item that IGNOU launches MA, a complete MA program on folklore and culture studies, and I have designed that program. I have designed and developed that complete academic program of 64 credits. And also in our MEG, MA English, we have one 8 credits course, Indian folk literature. And I have designed children's literature courses and also the poetry, American drama, British subjects as well. So what I'm trying to say is whatever we do some creative writing, we design academic programs in the capacity of being teachers in anything we do, in any kind of writing we do. Our memory, our life experiences, our identity will definitely come in life narrative. Here, I am reminded about T.S. Eliot, the essay Tradition and Individual Talent, which most of the English teachers sitting out there will understand, and the students of English literature will understand that in any kind of writing, the creative writer, as recommended by T.S. Eliot, should detach himself or herself from the creative writing. What T.S. Eliot says, that the writers, the poet's mind, my mind, is like the catalytic agent. And the external elements, the experiences all around me, whatever is happening all around me, will enter my mind. As Wordsworth would say, that would be my primary imagination. Things will come to my mind, enter into my mind, and then some chemical reaction will take place in my mind. I'm using the words of T.S. Eliot, that the chemical reaction will take place in my mind, and in the process of the chemical reaction, my mind will play the role of a catalytic agent. And then the outcome is creative writing. The outcome is my life narrative. But in the process, my mind will not undergo any kind of change. The author, the writer, Nandini, will be detached from the external elements, the first-hand experiences, and by detaching myself, by depersonalizing myself, by looking at my subject very objectively, I should be in a position to write down whatever I want to. So this is what he says, that a poet's mind should play the role of a catalytic agent. The poet should detach, depersonalize himself or herself, and then the creative process should take place, so that there is universal approach to your creative writing. Like Matthew Arnold would say, that every piece of creative writing should have a universal approach. I strongly recommend that whatever you write should have a universal approach, should be reachable, accessible to whoever is reading it. If I am writing something, my emotions overflowing, my powerful feelings overflowing through my emotions, and my poetry becomes a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, the feelings that are inside me, that is fair enough. I should definitely do that. But at the same time, with whatever I write, whenever I write something, the person reading it, if you are reading it as a reader, you should be in a position to connect to it. You should be in a position to associate yourself with it. If you are reading one of my poems, you should be in a position to feel that, yes, actually, I have written this poem. But Nandini has written, actually, I feel that sometimes when I read the great masters of our literature, and then those things get into my conscious and my subconscious mind, I feel that, well, looks like I have written it. It looks like this is my feeling. How come the author, the poet, the writer get into my mind? The author could get into my experiences, my understandings, and then he or she could write it. So this is what you call the universal writing. So this is the memory, the understanding of a writer. So this is your seminar tries to, the life experiences of one author, one creative writer, becomes the universal feeling, becomes the universal emotion. Any writing which doesn't have universality is not good writing, that I would say. Again, detach himself or herself from the piece of the creative writing that he or she is making, and then write it objectively. I have an objection to that. T.S. Eliot is one of the greatest poets of the world. I have been reading to him, I have been teaching him, and I am one of the very biggest fans of T.S. Eliot's language and approach to life. But this theory of objectivity, this theory of detaching yourself from the creative writing, is somehow not appealing to me as a creative writer. Whatever I write, I think a part of my personality, a bit of my personality definitely comes into that. Short stories I write, I have been writing multiple short stories these days, and the 7 poetry books and the 8th poetry collection coming up. all the poems that I have been writing have a bit of Nandini in them. And Nandini, not as Nandini, but as any woman, as any individual, as any reader. So when you read my poems, probably you are in a position to associate yourself with that. The experiences that I have gone through, you will be able to associate yourself with that. Now look at the writings of T.S. Eliot himself. The character Jerensen, you will find a bit of T.S. Eliot into that. Or Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. If you read that poem, Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, you will find the character, let us go then you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. When he wrote, the lover is in that kind of mindset, maybe a little bit detached, maybe a little bit frustrated, or maybe a little bit in a mood when he wants to, dissociate himself from the world and too much of involvement in any relationship. Maybe he is in that mode and mood of his life, and then he is asking his lover to go with him to a place where the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. Look at the imagery. Look at the kind of imagery the poet uses. And a patient lying on the table, etherized on the table, upon the table. So T.S. Eliot feels at that point of time that his life has become like that. He's open, he's exposed, his emotions are exposed to a world, and he doesn't have much of a control over those. And the world, the universe is controlling his emotions. In that kind of a mood and mode, he wrote that poem. One say that my personality doesn't come into my poetry or my creative writing. The writer will definitely come to the table when he or she is writing something, because writing is an ego battering exercise. Creative writing is an ego battering exercise. When I want to be a writer, a poet, I have to leave my ego somewhere. I have to shed my ego. I have to be elemental Nandini. I have to be the elemental woman that I am. And then language will come. Language will be flooded from the river that is inside. If the creative writer, the river, language is flowing. You know how language comes. I'm writing. Well, my poetry day, whatever happens, I will definitely write one poem, and I will definitely read some critical books every day because I'm a teacher. So the identity in me, the folklorist, the poet, and also the critique. When I'm writing a poem, the folklore theories that I have been teaching in my classroom, like neo-historicism and cultural materialism and all that, those things goes. So I do not write with a virgin mind. The critique, the folklorist, the theorist will definitely come to my mind when I'm writing a poem. And when I'm taking a creative writing classroom or I'm taking a theory classroom, the creative writer, the poet inside me, the emotional person inside me goes to the classroom. In my classroom teaching, I'm not detached. I do not just give a lot of information to the students. Rather, the person you are looking at now, the person who smiles at people, the person who likes to get indulged with people, get involved with people, associate with people, get connected with people through eye contact, through a smile, the same person goes to the classroom. So this is what happens when the theorist, critic, folklorist, and the poet, the multiple identities of a person come together. Well, in this context, I remember some of my poetry collections and how my life narratives have definitely come into those. My first poetry collection was published in 2004, even if I have been writing poetry since I was 7 years old. My first poem was published when I was 7 years old in a small village. I have come from a very small village in rural Odisha. Though I have traveled all over the globe and I have seen the world and I have wide exposure at this point of my life, and I have been so grateful to God. God has been kind, and I have been getting great support from the universe when it comes to my career. But I basically come from a small village. And then when I was 7 years old, there was a heavy rain, torrential rain in the tribal village where I grew up. And I saw that we all were comfortably, cozily sleeping in our houses when the farmers were working in the rain. They had all those, inbuilt umbrellas on their head, bamboo umbrellas you might have seen at your place. They had those on their head and they were working. When it was raining and we were cozy and comfortable at home, the farmers were working. I looked at the farmers and I wrote this very short poem. And the theme of the poem was like, oh dear farmers, look at your life. You are providers for us. You are protectors for us. You are providing us life force. You are giving us happiness. You are giving us food. You are giving us comfort. So I wrote that poem out of my gratitude, my affection for the farmers. So I have always been connected to ecology. So my connectedness with ecology is reflected in the academic work that I am doing now, teaching of folklore, teaching of tribal literature. So you see, I grew up with that. And then one of my poetry collections, the book is titled Sukhama and Other Poems. You can Google that, Sukhama and Other Poems. It's a very famous book. A lot of PhDs have been done on that. In fact, some 38, 39 PhDs have been done on my poetry. And Sukhama is one of the very important books which have been taken with great interest by the researchers who are writing their PhD thesis on my poetry. So they write about Sukhama as Nandini's folklore. Sukhama, Sukha's mother, she was a tribal Kond woman who was working in our house, in our household as the domestic help. And she had these vertical and horizontal tattoos on her face. Tattoos, vertical and horizontal. You can Google the tattoos on the tribal women's faces in Odisha. You will see they actually do it. And Sukhama came to my house. At that time, I was hardly 9-10 years old. And I asked her, Sukhama, who did this to you? You have a beautiful face. What happened? So many wounds and so much of, bloodshed on your face. And then she said, my husband did it. I said, why? Because if I'm a beautiful woman, other men will look at me. Other men will try to snatch me from him. So my husband did this to me. And I was so angry. Even when I was 8-9 years old, I was a feminist. I just went to Sukhama's house in the night with a big stick and I hit her husband black and blue. I said, you cannot do this to the face of a woman. She is so beautiful. And that person was so drunk, he could not even protest. So that was my protest. Mother was very angry with me that I hit Sukhama's husband. But then when I grew up in 2014, I had a poetry book going on, a lot of poems on folklore. The poems were going on. And then I went to Odisha during my annual visit and I saw that year Sukhama had passed away. And her daughters, her children, their husbands were kind of tormenting them. They were trying to do those horizontal, vertical tattoos on their face. I met their husbands and I said, now you do it. I was 10 years old. I could not protect Sukhama, but now you do it to your wives. I will take you to task. You will be behind the bars for creating those facial tattoos for your beautiful wives. And then somehow I protected those girls, Sukhama's children. I brought them to Delhi and I got them settled in different NGOs and I educated them. So this is my contribution, social responsibility as a creative writer. A creative writer has life experiences. A poet has life experiences. I'm not just a word juggler. You know juggling? So I cannot only juggle with words if I am a creative writer. I have to actually do some kind of social commitment. And then I settled Sukhama's children. And then I wrote a book, Sukhama and Other Poems. Okay, so this Sukhama and Other Poems, that poetry collection, the first poem is dedicated to Sukhama. How and why I am so indebted to her, how she was responsible in creating the powerful women that we all were. I have 6 sisters. All the 6 sisters that I have, we all are settled in different metro cities and in high profile jobs and all that. But then the entire credit goes to Sukhama, kind of a tribal folk indigenous woman who was our virtual mother. So the life experiences with Sukhama have come up in that book, Sukhama and Other Poems. Similarly, my first poetry collection in 2004, The Other Voice. At that time, I was probably very young and I was thinking about the existential issues of life. The Other Voice and next was The Silence in 2005. So those 2 books have a lot of very emotional poems, emotional overflow of powerful feelings that happens to each one of you when you are very young. But when you come to our age, mature age and seniors, then probably your writing will mature. Every piece of writing, every poem, every story you write is little bit better than the previous one, isn't it? So with experience, so this is what happened. That my first 2 poetry books were hypersensitive, a lot of emotions, and one syndrome was disturbing me. If anything wrong happened with me, then I would think, why me? Why me? Maine kya kiya? Why should this happen to me? I used to think like that. And then those things will definitely come in the creative writing. My own life experiences, a lot of mature writing came up. In 2009, my third poetry collection, Silver Poems on My Lips. Silver Poems on My Lips, again, a happy poetry collection. Because the first 2 poetry collections, when I was very, very young, and problems of a girl child who got married up very early in life, a lot of, important issues and questions, interrogations, questioning the society, questioning myself, questioning everyone around me. Why me? Those things were there. But third poetry collection was a happy poetry collection, Silver Poems on My Lips. In that also, I have taken some social issue-based poems. And the next poetry collection was Sukama and Other Poems, about which I already told you. And then the next poetry collection was Sita. You should Google Sita. You can please Google Sita, a poem by Nandini Sahu. In South India, in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, and Bangalore, so many PhD theses are coming up on Sita. And I'm surprised every single day. People contact me. They ask me questions about Sita. And they take interviews with me, and they include those interviews as thesis. Only yesterday, some professor from Tamil Nadu contacted me. She took an interview with me about Sita. Now, about my poetry book, Sita, that once again is my life experience, the creative writer's life experience. I won't say very much autobiographical. Actually, when you read Sita, you will connect to it. Dr. Lily or all other teachers sitting out there will think that there is a bit of Sita-ness in them. This word Sita-ness is my coinage. Sita-ness means what? I'm not presenting a brooding, crying, complaining, sad woman Sita in my book Sita. It's a complete poetry book of 250 pages, one book, one long poem in 25 cantos. My Sita is a progressive, independent, contemporary, optimistic, positive woman who is accepting life as it is, who has no brooding, no complaints over the experiences that life has given her. She is accepting life as it is. And then she's a single mother, the way I am. She doesn't have any complaints about life. I too don't have any complaints about life. I count my blessings. Yes, everyone had some sadness, some problems in their lives, but then we have to smile and move on. We have to smile and accept life as it is. Only then our minds will be a catalytic agent. So following T.S. Eliot, I made my mind the catalyst. I detached the sorrows, the pains of Nandini. I attached myself with the optimistic, progressive, positive Sita, the single mother, the great cook, the eco-feminist, the great teacher in Valmiki Ashram, all those positive qualities in a woman. Look at you women, all the you women out there, you are so strong, so independent. So I got into that character Sita through my book. And then when I wrote that poem, long poem Sita, I was crying. I did a lot of research for 2 years. I visited the entire Ramayana map of the world, from Bali, Indonesia to Sri Lanka to so many other places. All the states in India, Nepal, where Sita was born. I went to all those places. I took interviews with people associated with the Ramayana. I took 2 years of research before I wrote that poem, long poem Sita, book Sita actually. And then I took 18 days only to write that. When I was flooded with ideas, when words were crossing the parapet, the boundaries of my mind, when I could hold it no more. Had I not written Sita, I would have got a massive, maybe, burst. My head would have got an attack had I not written Sita. So writing is a kind of therapy for me. I write, so I survive. I survive because I write. So this is my life experience as a writer. Had I not been a creative writer, I would have rather not survived. Writing is my survival strategy. So won't you call it the life experiences of a poet, the narrative strategy of a poet, the memory and the identity and the agency of a writer? Writing is my agency. That's my survival strategy to live life in a positive way. Because I'm a creative writer, so I'm a positive person. So I am a positive teacher. So I'm an optimist. So I wanted to become like Sita, and I merged myself with Sita. So if you read that long poem, Sita, you will feel that it's about you. It's not about me. All men will think that this poem is addressed to me. All women will feel that, okay, I have written this poem. Any woman writes that, reads that book, will feel it's not written by Nandini, it's written by me. So this is what I mean. I identify myself with the characters. And the next book was published last year, 0 Point. 0 Point is the point from where you start life. You forgive everyone. You forgive all the sorrows that has been given to you, that have been given to you by life. You forgive all the bad things that happened to you probably. That kind of self-pity is no more. You get out of the self-pity, you become self-confident. You accept yourself the way you are. You accept yourself with all your dark corners, with all your bright sides. You accept yourself. And then you write that book. So in that mood, with that mood, I wrote the book 0 Point. And a lot of poems from 0 Point are in the syllabi of quite a few universities. In some foreign universities also, there is one long poem, and the Song of Liberty. You can just Google and the YouTube, you will find the Song of Liberty by Nandini Sahu. So many YouTubes are also there. So in that poem, the person is talking about her association with some people in her life. She was not conscious about her body and body politics, and then slowly how she gets into life in a very mature mood. It's about that 0 Point. And then in 2020, my poetry book was published, Selected Poems of Nandini Sahu. So many important poems from the previous collections and some new poems. And this year I'm publishing a long poetry collection again, Kern, placed him visibly all men. So it was so difficult for me to think like a man, a woman thinking like a man, and writing a long poetry book from the perspective of Kern. And the theoretical framework of that book, the poetry book, is masculinity studies. For me, I'm a teacher of gender studies also. I take a lot of classes in my MPhil, for my MPhil students on gender studies. My gender studies classrooms comprise 3 things: feminism, masculinity studies, and queer studies, LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, LGBTQ studies. So without taking all these 3 things together, I repeat, feminism, masculinity studies, and queer studies, the 3 genders together. If I talk about all of them together, inclusivity, solidarity, sharing, and caring for each other. In feminism, the presence of men is more important. And in masculinity studies, the presence of women is more important. Sometimes women are so very responsible for creating the characters of men. In the creation of the character Kern, the female characters like Kunti and Draupadi were so very responsible. So I am talking about that. I am merging into Kern. I am thinking like a man, and I'm writing the biography, the life narrative of Kern, the memory, the identity of Kern, and my agency is the long poem Kern. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever you write, the creative writer that you are, your personality, your thought process, everything will come into that. And with that in mind, now I'm writing a lot of short stories. A short story collection is coming up this year. The title of the story collection is To Cut a Long Story Short. To cut a long story short. And then I have some 25 short stories in that. And my short stories are not really short. They are like 20 pages, 80, 90 pages and all. So a short story collection is coming, and all my life narratives are coming in that. Some experience in the childhood, somebody I met in the market, those characters, you know how I write. When I write, I will just close my eyes and the character will be all over my head. They follow me everywhere. They go to the kitchen with me. They go to the bedroom with me. They go to my bathroom. The characters will follow me everywhere. I live those characters. Sometimes I become one. I become Kern. I think like Kern. So that kind of experience will get into you if you are an involved writer. So I am a very, very involved, committed creative writer, folklorist, and a teacher. And my multiple identities have always come into my creative writing. And I wish I had a lot of time to talk to you today. Actually, I prepared a paper when you all invited me to deliver a lecture. I'm a very serious researcher. I prepared a paper of 20 pages. I'll send that to you. Please go through that and share with people. I could not even talk anything about that paper here. I only kept on talking about the creative writer in me. And I have to go and join my other meeting. Please forgive me for that. I will get back to you if there is time. And if you have any questions for me, please email the questions to me, kavinandini@gmail.com. Also, I have a piece of information. If you are writing, if you are a creative writer, you're writing poems or stories or anything, send those to me. I will publish you. I always encourage young people, youngsters, enthusiastic writers. That is also a part of my social commitment. I have a very big library and I'm closely associated with a couple of publishing houses. If you want to publish, also I have 2 journals. If you want to publish yourself, you can get in touch with me. I will always encourage and publish good writing. Having said that, I think I should go and join my other meeting. It's wonderful meeting all of you. Thank you once again. Thank you very much for inviting me. It was great interacting with you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Nandini Sahu, for sharing your valuable experiences as a folklorist and a creative writer. Your words on the creative process as an author made us feel the joy, anxiety, and pain that you go through during your creative process. I was personally able to connect with my reading of Sita in your poem while you were talking. The Sita who shows courage to question the injustices and who is vocal about her own rights. The elements and flavor of Nandini in powerful image of Sita in your book. I was able to see that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that radiant optimism in your words.
Yeah, thank you.
Gratitude is the most exquisite form of courtesy. To extend our gratitude, I invite the convener of the conference, Dr. Marcela Manisi, Assistant Professor in the Department of English, to propose the vote of thanks.
Respected and most distinguished chief guest of the day, Dr. Nandini Sahu, Reverend Father Augustine George, Principal, respected Dean Dr. Gopakumar Yevi, dear professors, delegates, and my dear Jayantians. A very warm good morning to one and all gathered here. It is indeed a great honor to propose the vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked hard to make this conference happen. John F. Kennedy once said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. First of all, my sincere thanks to the Lord Almighty for making today's event a grand success through his blessing and grace. At the outset, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record a heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Nandini Sahu for sparing some time from a very busy schedule and honoring this conference by sharing her memory, experience, and identity. Ma'am, your speech has really inspired and rejuvenated the budding scholars and the students of literature.
Yeah.
On behalf of the entire Department of English, I wish to extend a sincere and heartfelt gratitude to the true visionary and great leader, Reverend Father Augustine George, Principal, Christu Jayanti College, for his consistent motivation and leadership. Thank you, Father. I also extend my thanks to Father Lijo P. Thomas, Head, Department of Computer Science, and the Financial Administrator for his tireless support and his encouragement in all our endeavors. Thank you, Father. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Father Emmanuel PJ, Director, Christu Jayanti College of Law, Father Zom Zakaria, Director, Library and Information Technology, Reverend Father Deepu, Faculty, Department of Life Science, for being a source of constant support and a guidance. I take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the chairperson of the conference, Dr. Gopakumar Yevi, Dean of Humanities, for his guidance and mentoring and for consistently being a source of support for us. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the whole department, I extend my thanks to the members of the advisory committee for the conference, Dr. Ravichandran, Professor, Department of Humanities and Social Science, IIT Kanpur, Dr. K.S. Anthony Sami, Associate Professor and Head, Department of English, Loyola College, Chennai, Dr. Krishna Manavalli, Professor, Department of Studies in English, University of Mysore, Dr. Srinath Muralidharan, Senior Guide and Assistant Professor in Amrita School of Arts and Sciences, Amrita University, Kochi, and
Dr. Geeta Bhaskar, Professor, Department of English, Bangalore University, for all their inputs and suggestions. I'm very grateful to Father Joshi Matthew, Member of Management, Faculty, Department of English, and the convener of the conference for his guidance and moral support. Thank you, Father. I also wish to express my gratitude to the conveners of the conference, Professor Jerin, Coordinator, Department of English, Professor Alna Maria Isaac, Professor Minu, Professor Jimin for their dedication and thorough commitment in organizing this conference. Thank you, dear teachers. I'll be failing in my duty if I do not underline the very important role played by Dr. Dilli Kuti for her tireless efforts in organizing and coordinating this conference. Thank you, madam. An event like this cannot happen overnight. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated faculty members in the department. I thank each one of them for their incredible support and the dedication. Thank you, dear teachers. And my sincere thanks to all the resource persons, delegates, participants for your overwhelming responses and active participation in the conference. I wish to thank all the deans, heads, faculty members from various departments, and my dear Jayantians for your active participation. I also would like to acknowledge the technical support provided by Professor Bino Joseph, Dr. Margaret Mary, and Mr. Amir and his team. Thank you, dear teachers. Once again, thank you all for being with us. I remain.
Thank you, Dr. Masilamani, for your tireless effort as a coordinator in conducting this national conference. So with that, let this conference be a platform for fruitful academic discussion. The inauguration session will come to an end with the college anthem. I invite the college choir to sing the college anthem.
Like a golden disc, sun in the rising east, lights up a life divine, fills knowledge in our minds. Laurels and the book make us sublime. With the mighty Lord, we soar high on the bedrock of faith. Integrity of force, human dignity true, excellence we strive. Christu Jayanti light and prosperity. Christu Jayanti light and prosperity. Rays of joy and peace sprawl our hearts and minds. On we march our goals as a beacon for the world, with a passion for our growth and a love for humankind, united and strong in excellence on the bedrock of faith. Integrity of force, human dignity true, excellence we strive. Christu Jayanti light and prosperity. Christu Jayanti light and prosperity.
Thank you, choir. With that, the inaugural session has officially come to an end. This next session, plenary session 1, will start at 11 o'clock. Dr. T. Maths from Pondicherry University will be talking about testimonies as social history on the topic. So I request all the participants to take a short break and come back and rejoin exactly at 10:55, and we will start the session exactly at 11. Thank you very much for your patience and time.